a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore.
7 minutes past the top of the hour on a Freedom Friday. July 2nd, 2021. We are atop the Murchison Building in downtown Wilmington, North Carolina, overlooking the Cape Fear River and Battleship, North Carolina. And you're tuned in to the Big Talker, 106.7 FM. Our call-in number is 910-299-7535 if you'd like to be a part of the show here until 10 o'clock. As always, weekday mornings. Video portion of the program available by subscribing to our YouTube channel or following us through the various social platforms that are out there, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Once again, our call-in number is 910-299-7535. It is the end of the broadcast week, which means just after 7:30 this morning, as we have done every Friday, almost every Friday, with the exception of a time or two when I've not been in the captain's chair, we celebrate stories of service of the men and women who are called to serve this great nation as we get set to celebrate our nation's birthday later on this weekend. And this morning, I look forward to be working with an organization known as Code of Vets as we continue to highlight stories of service every Freedom Friday just after 7:30, kind of a tradition that we have started here on the Big Talker FM. Gretchen Smith, an hour behind us in the Central Time Zone, will be joining us. 6:30 local time for her, 7:30 here on the East Coast. She is a U.S. Air Force veteran and the founder of this organization known as Code of Vets. They are very prominent and well-known across social media. This organization supports and values the brave veterans who serve our country. They work to bring awareness and seek practical solutions to the daily struggles and issues facing the great veterans of our country. Their mission is to take care of their own, one veteran at a time. We look forward to the conversation with Gretchen Smith in just a little while to highlight our weekly Freedom Friday Salute to Service segment here on the Big Talker. That's coming your way here just after 7:30. Of course, as we move into our nation's Independence Day celebration and weekend, well, in a time where there are many within our own ranks who are working to wash away the history of this country and rewrite it through their own vision. We've had these conversations, particularly over the last couple of weeks, due to the decision made up in Chapel Hill on Wednesday of this week to grant the Pulitzer Prize-winning quote-unquote investigative journalist who published in the New York Times what is known as the 1619 Project. We've worked over the last few days to debunk much of what was included in that piece, just as many historians have since it was released a few years back. We've tried over the last few days to kind of build up to our nation's birthday, and that will be the dominating theme over the course of the next few hours. As we often overlook the brilliant men who crafted our Declaration of Independence in 1776 with logic and reason rather than emotion and anger. Let some of those descriptive words settle in for you here this morning as we try and make some sense of the world we're navigating today. Emotion, anger, the dominating feelings that many push forward with today based on an issue here or an issue there, rather than utilizing, well, the gray matter God gave you and putting forward some logic and reason to things that oftentimes you can't explain or understand and are very complicated. So in a rush to destroy our history, many out there often overlook the brilliant men who crafted our Declaration of Independence in 1776. So today we will examine that declaration with logic and reason rather than emotion and anger. In fact, we have two regular scheduled guests that join the program throughout each broadcast week that have published articles highlighting either specific founding fathers and how they, well, essentially flipped off, gave the old Bronx salute to the British crown almost 250 years ago. This week, of course, we celebrate that middle finger, as Ray Nothstein put it at CarolinaJournal.com, examining the life of one John Hancock, a very wealthy man who could have just, disappeared kind of into the shadows and lived a very lucrative life under the British crown. Well, he decided to sacrifice it all. And our friend Richard Battle also has a great piece, and we discussed a piece of the thoughts he put down on paper yesterday when he joined our program on Wednesday of this week. The Declaration of Independence in 1776, and then some 11 years later in 1787, all focus was on future generations with a brand new document known as the United States Constitution. It is now the longest active governing document globally. When the Founding Fathers wrote this, they recognized that they did not give us a perfect government, but hoped the people would continue to, quote, form a more perfect union. Again, our friend Richard Battle put together a great commentary that I'll share with you in a little while. Serious men who knew what they risked and why, but felt the gamble was worthwhile to create a unique place on planet Earth where men governed themselves and individual liberty was the order of the day. Give me liberty or give me death. Along with Richard's article that we'll pull from a little later this morning. Again, I also want to highlight Ray Nothstein's piece at CarolinaJournal.com, examining the role of John Hancock in the Revolution. Of course, as Ray puts it, along with his life, he had much to lose if the British crown got its way. Hancock had flaws like all the American founders, but his courage should remain a great example to those pushing back against today's laundry list of tyrannies. Ray believes everything that's happening in the political culture today should reorient us towards first principles and possess spirit and courage like Hancock. Whether it's the mob mentality to cancel folks for differing opinions, or this repackaged conversation that focuses solely on the pigment of your skin, or the implementation of debunked theories and ideas within our public schools. How about the endless tax and spending policies that our politicians are forcing us to deal with? Ray says we must have the courage to stand against it. After all, the entire theme and text of the Declaration of Independence is a reminder to put tyrants on notice. But first, and maybe the most important part of all of this. The Declaration of Independence reminds us that rights are inherent. Government is the servant and not the master of the people. We'll comb through his article this morning, and you can take a gander at carolinajournal.com. Post it on your social media platform. Read it to your kids and grandkids this upcoming weekend as we celebrate our nation's Independence Day. We'll also hear, of course, from Chad Adams just after 8 o'clock, as we always do. He's having a good old time down on the beach across the river in Brunswick County. We'll get an update from Oak Island this morning with our good buddy Chad Adams. Dr. Sal Giorgianni also going to join the program. He's with the Men's Health Network. And given that we grabbed my mother-in-law from the airport just the other day, I noticed even in Myrtle Beach that, well, these mask mandates remain in place in the airports and on the airplanes. So my question and my thought was, when I saw these people pouring out of the airport with masks on, when will the government-funded airline industry let us take our masks off? Well, Dr. Sal Giorgianni of the Men's Health Network will share his thoughts on that when he joins us inside that 8 o'clock hour. Given news this week that the International Association of Flight Attendants have come out and testified that masks remain a, quote, very critical part of limiting the spread of the BS COVID-19 Chinese Communist virus on flights. We'll hear from a medical doctor in Sal Giorgianni of the Men's Health Network, and he'll bring us his thoughts on this whole situation regarding air travel when he joins us inside this 8 o'clock hour. I mean, 18 months ago, it would have been difficult to imagine that a strip of fabric was about to become the most contentious topic of public discourse ever maybe imaginable, at least in our time. The stuff of presidential politics and sketches on, late-night talk shows. Some people would burn masks in protests, while others would spend $300 for a silken face covering from the Beverly Hills boutique house of Bajan. Yet here we are. 19 minutes past the hour on this Freedom Friday, July 2nd, 2021. Great to be with you as we move into the Independence Day weekend. I've got some patriotic tunes we'll play for you as we move through the broadcast. And, of course, upcoming here in about 10 minutes, Gretchen Smith, U.S. Air Force veteran, founder of the organization known as Code of Vets. She'll be our featured guest as part of our Freedom Friday segment. And that comes your way in 10 minutes only here on the Big Talker, 106.7 FM.
I'm K.O. Davis from K.O.'s Coast to Coast Tree, and I want to be your tree man.
When your trees need cut, 2 letters to know. One is a K, the other is an O. K.O.
Tree man.
Proper trimming is the most important thing that you can do, so don't just hire anybody to do it. You need someone that knows what they're doing.
K.O.
Call the professionals at K.O.'s Coast to Coast Tree and visit KOTrees.com.
One Love Tennis started in 2013 to give back to young boys and girls. We now go through 460 kids a week that are learning about life skills, learning to succeed in life through academics and tennis. Putting those two together, if you do them well, you can write your own ticket. To get involved in this program, go to our website, one-love-tennis.org.
Hey guys, what if I told you that your wedding day could be the happiest day of your life, even if it rained? You sound like the weatherman.
Better, Jordan. I'm a jeweler with the most amazing guarantee in the diamond business. If you buy your diamond engagement ring from us at Perry's Emporium and it rains on your wedding day, your ring is absolutely free.
It's the Perry's Emporium Legendary Rainy Day Diamond Guarantee.
No other jeweler in Eastern North Carolina has a larger selection of loose diamonds, diamond engagement rings, and wedding bands than Perry's Emporium, all at the guaranteed lowest price. Perry's Emporium in beautiful Barclay Commons behind Henry's and on the web at perrysemporium.com.
We'll see you when you get here.
Hi, I'm Dr. Gabe Frank of the Frank Institute, and I wanted to tell you about our IV vitamin, infusion, and hydration therapies. These IVs are the most effective treatment for vitamin and nutrition deficiencies available, and with our wide range of offering, your treatment can be tailored to your specific needs. Whether you struggle with hydration or nutritional deficiency, injury recovery, low energy, please feel free to check out our IV infusions today. Schedule an appointment at 910-679-8534 or check out all our treatment services at www.frankinstitute.com.
Hey, this is Matt Ham, co-founder of Uprint Faith and Personal Development. Join myself and Kevin Adams every Saturday and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Wilmington's Big Talker for a fun, uplifting conversation about the upside of upside-down living.
O'Leary's Automotive Repair has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
I walked through a county courthouse square. On a park bench, an old man was sitting there. I said, "Your old courthouse is kind of run down." He said, "No, it'll do for our little town." I said, "Your old flagpole is leaned a little bit, and that's a ragged old flag you got hanging on it." He said, "Have a seat," and I sat down. "Is this the first time you've been to our little town?" I said, "I think it is." He said, "I don't like to brag, but we're kind of proud of that ragged old flag. You see, we got a little hole in that flag there when Washington took it across the Delaware. And it got powder burned the night that Francis Scott Key sat watching it write and say, 'Can you see?' And it got a bad rip in New Orleans with Pakenham and Jackson tugging at its seams. And it almost fell at the Alamo beside the Texas flag, but she waved on, though. She got cut with a sword at Chancellorsville, and she got cut again at Shiloh Hill. There was Robert E. Lee, Beauregard, and Bragg, and the south wind blew hard on that ragged old flag. On Flanders Field in World War I, she got a big hole from a Bertha gun. She turned blood red in World War II. She hung limp and low a time or two. She was in Korea, Vietnam. She went where she was sent by her Uncle Sam. She waved from our ships upon the briny foam, and now they've about quit waving back here at home. In her own good land here, she's been abused. She's been burned, dishonored, denied, and refused. And the government for which she stands is scandalized throughout the land. And she's getting threadbare and she's wearing thin, but she's in good shape for the shape she's in. 'Cause she's been through the fire before, and I believe she can take a whole lot more. So we raise her up every morning, we take her down every night, we don't let her touch the ground, and we fold her up right. On second thought, I do like to brag, 'cause I'm mighty proud of that ragged old flag.
All right, we're 27 minutes past the hour here on the Big Talker FM. Obviously, we're going to splice in a couple of drops of American patriotism into our broadcast here this morning. Frankly, I'm checked out on the news of the day. What's happening is going to happen, and no matter what we say today or over the next couple of days, ain't going to change nothing. So we're going to celebrate. We're going to throw down a party for America. And for those who don't want to stand for the Stars and Stripes, we'll take a hike. In fact, we've got a few folks started to echo some of those thoughts in our entertainment industries throughout professional sports. Of course, a lot was made of the third place hammer thrower in the U.S. Olympic trials a couple of days back, and everyone has given a take this way or that way on that woman. Not, of course, those who finished first and then second in the trial, who stood with the American flag draped over their shoulders, as you typically see of Olympians representing the country they're very proud to represent. As we move through our broadcast here this morning, once again, we'll work in different audio clips and songs to highlight our nation's birthday. Because the truth of the matter is, for me personally, you think about growing up as a kid and looking at the Stars and Stripes, whether it be standing for the pledge in school or at a ball game, lining the first base line with your buddies and your dad and your family in the stands cheering you on. When you hear that national anthem, as we just did, performed by the U.S. Marine Corps Band. By the way, every rendition of the national anthem should be under 2 minutes in my mind, but nonetheless, the feeling that it gives you, the respect that you have for those who have come before you. Again, the flag is not supposed to represent perfection, but the flag is the family, the American family, the country that we share. So we've got this culture, professing to our young people and teaching these kids that their country is inherently bad. What good does that do? Not to respect those who have come before you. And yeah, all right, it's your free right to do so. And it's my free right to wholeheartedly disagree. To not respect the national anthem, the flag, take a hike. That's supposed to be the one thing that brings us together, and it's heartbreaking to see. Gretchen Smith is a U.S. Air Force veteran, and she was the founder and is the founder of the group known as Code of Vets. She'll join us here in just a few minutes to highlight her organization as we celebrate the men and women of our armed forces and those who have put it all on the line through our weekly Freedom Friday segment, and that comes your way next.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. Florida officials are working on plans to demolish what's left of a partially collapsed oceanfront condominium building. The plans were revealed yesterday after concerns about the structure's instability prompted a 15-hour halt to the search for survivors. After rescue efforts resumed last night, officials said they had started planning for the likely demolition of the remaining structure. Donald Trump's company and its longtime finance chief were charged yesterday in what a prosecutor called a sweeping and audacious tax fraud scheme. The indictment says Trump Organization CFO Alan Weissenberg allegedly received more than $1.7 million in off-the-books compensation, including apartment rent, car payments, and school tuition. Both Weisselberg and lawyers for the Trump Organization pleaded not guilty. The North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission is taking part in a nationwide campaign starting today, running through July 4th. It's called Operation Dry Water. The mission of the nationally coordinated effort is to promote sobriety while boating and educate boaters about the dangers of boating while under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Lieutenant Forrest Orr of the Wildlife Commission said they ultimately want to reduce the number of alcohol and drug-related incidents and fatalities on the water. And lots of people are wondering, will Wilmington's new Riverfront Park be ready to open in time for the holiday? A ribbon cutting is planned for this afternoon, and on Sunday, the 4th of July, the new venue will host a number of free concerts. For more on the City of Wilmington's 4th of July activities and the grand opening celebration for North Riverfront Park, look for this story on our website, wwaytv3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day and a safe 4th of July.
O'Leary's Automotive Repair has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
Happy Friday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Well, today is going to be a bit on the unsettled side, so keep the rain gear with you. We're going to see scattered showers and some tropical downpours take shape late this afternoon into the evening hours, so do keep that in mind today. And as we head into the second half of the day, we are going to see temperatures get back into the low to middle 80s, a few degrees cooler than normal. Shower activity should wrap up late tonight, allowing for lower humidity to settle in just in time for the holiday weekend. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
I got the call to leave today. My team and I are gone away. Where to, how long? Well, that's a need to know. You can bet on us, 'cause we're good to go. I'm a patriot. I bleed red, white, and blue. I'm a patriot, American through and through.
Every Friday morning, we tell stories of service of the men and women of our armed forces, those who have come before us, those who are going through many different experiences, whether as active duty or veterans to our great country. It's our weekly Salute to Service Freedom Friday segment on the Big Talker FM. We've been doing it nearly every Friday for 4.5 years. This morning, we welcome Gretchen Smith to the program. She's a U.S. Air Force veteran and founder of the organization known as Code of Vets. You can find out more about their organization through their website at codeofvets.com. Gretchen, I know it's early for you this morning, but thank you so much for joining our program, and good morning to you.
Good morning, Joe. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I love sharing our mission. It's sacred.
And with that said, just give us a little information and background on yourself and what kind of got you inspired and motivated to put forth your mission, which is to take care of our own one veteran at a time.
Well, my husband and I are both Air Force veterans. We met over in Ramstein Air Base, Germany, and got married over there. Came back home, raised our family, and my dad is a combat vet. He is the inspiration of Code of Vets. He lost his battle with PTSD back in 2005. And I sat down with Dad, Joe, not too long before he passed, and had just a very raw conversation with Dad. You know, I was crying, and I just said, Dad, what are you doing? We need you. And he looked at me with big tears rolling down his face, and he said, I'm tired. I'm done. They've won, and I'm ready to go home. And I lost Dad not too much longer after that conversation, and those words seared my soul, and I knew I wanted to do something to honor my dad, and his life mattered. And he really struggled throughout his life. So I started Code of Vets as a Twitter page to honor my dad and his legacy, and it just exploded in growth in the social media world.
With that said, over the course of time, your dad coming from kind of a different generation, we could say, in that ones that weren't necessarily very open or willing or wanting to share stories or to show maybe what they would consider weakness during a time after they saw and experienced what many of us can't fathom. That has evolved over the course of time, where now more of our veterans and the conversation in our society is much more open to try and get people help and to share their experiences and to cope with a lot of the impacts that you have when you serve, particularly in a combat type of situation. As you've moved your mission forward, have you found that to be truth, that more and more folks are much more willing to be open and sharing of their experiences and open to getting some help or talking with others to try and move forward?
Yeah, well, we have made great strides, since the Vietnam era. The VA is no longer telling, which this is exactly what they said to my dad at the Asheville VA. When he reached out for help, when he first got back home, he was just out of control, knew that he was, in trouble. And they told him he had something called shell shock, basically to suck it up and be a man and to shove it way down deep and never speak of it again. Well, they don't do that anymore. We have made progress since then, but we still have a long way to go. And we do have veterans that reach out, and those are the ones that you can really walk through those dark moments. It's the ones that isolate themselves that are worrisome, and that's just a thread throughout our veteran community, are the ones who don't talk about it, who self-isolate. It's dangerous. It can lead down that path to suicide, and that's what happens in a lot of the cases. So, we still need to work on it. We need to let our brothers and sisters in arms know that it's okay. That we all need help at times in our lives. We all feel crippled on our knees, and when you're not strong enough to take that next step forward, allow one of us in your own community, reach out your hand, and we'll help guide you to the resources that you need, because there's so much help out there, Joe.
Gretchen Smith is a U.S. Air Force veteran and the founder of CODA Vets. This is an organization that brings awareness and seeks practical solutions to the daily struggles and issues facing our veterans. And given the fact that we're located kind of right in between Camp Lejeune to our north, Fort Bragg to our west, obviously deep, rich military roots where we are here on the Carolina coast, and North Carolina, as a whole, is a veteran-rich state. And these are issues that need to be at the forefront, I think, on a daily basis to get help or provide assistance, or just a shoulder to cry on, or an ear to listen to for the men and women who serve, particularly as you go through this transition period from a life as a member of our armed forces into a civilian life, trying to retrain yourself as to what a civilian does day to day as compared to your duties and responsibilities, as an active duty service member.
Absolutely. There's some unique challenges to that transition from military to civilian life. I experienced it myself as a female vet. I have, a unique experience from that perspective. So we all need to be there for each other and help each other through that transition. We need to find a better way to network and support each other, because that's where we have a weakness in our nation, in our military, is that transition out. There's a lot of obstacles there. The main thing is, TAPS, I don't feel like really prepares us for civilian life. I went through it myself, and I'm sure everybody else did too. It's just, there's a disconnect there. When you get out, you totally feel back on your own. It happens very quickly, especially when you're coming from such structure, discipline, and that training, that camaraderie, that brotherhood. It's real, it's powerful, and you miss it, and you kind of get lost. I mean, it doesn't happen to everybody, but it happens to many of us. And I struggled a little bit too, and so did my husband. Just that day-to-day structure was gone, and we were totally on our own, to figure out life. So that's, it's just an area that we need to talk about as a nation. We need to uphold our veterans that are, coming out of active duty, because they're the ones who have put the uniforms on and have protected us. That they're the reasons why we have our freedoms. It's the reason why we're going to be celebrating independence on July 4th. Our veterans. It's just we need to have them in the forefront of all that we do. In my opinion, we need to make Veterans Day every day.
What type of support have you received from across the country since you launched this endeavor a couple of years ago?
Oh gosh, Joe, it's been tremendous. I started talking about Joe, or my husband's story, or my dad's story, and it just exploded from day one. It just was meant to be. It was organic. It just evolved on its own. And we've helped veterans across the country with small, issues, needing shoes, groceries, all the way up to being homeless, living in a barn, a shed, under a bridge, or couch surfing in a hotel. You name it, and it just runs the gambit. But we've had donors also across the country and outside the United States send funds. We're very transparent with what we do. We operate in real time. That's what's unique about Code of Vets. Nobody has ever started an org, like Code of Vets. We operate on Twitter. We pit our vetted veterans, who my partner, Dr. Cindy Walters, she vets after they fill out the vet need form on codeofvets.com. She vets the veteran and the situation, then sends it on to me. I put the veteran out on Twitter and raise the funds through PayPal. And as the funds come in, the cases are triaged, and I know which ones are the most serious, and we just go down the line, and we catch the emergent and urgent cases first. And then I just go down the line from there to the vets who are awaiting their turn. It's an amazing, simple concept. It's powerful. Cindy and I work 7 days a week. We do not take a paycheck. And the biggest thing about Code of Vets that we're so proud of is we operate on 2%, and the rest goes to the veterans. Because it's social media driven. Social media is very powerful, and it can be used for something good, and that's what we're doing.
Gretchen Smith, U.S. Air Force veteran and founder of the organization known as Code of Vets, joined their endeavor to assist veterans that have fallen through the cracks through their life. You can provide immediate intervention, as you just heard, for veterans in crisis, at risk, and or in need. Gretchen, how can people contact you, and where's the information? I'm assuming on your website, of course, but how else can people get involved, without just donating some money to you in a time of need?
What is just as critical to our mission as donations is retweeting and resharing our posts. That's the heart of Code of Vets. I encourage any listener out there to please start a Twitter page just to follow Code of Vets. I'm telling you, it's a God mission. We're out there taking care of our own every day. We have veterans posted out there right now. Every retweet matters because it can touch the heart of a donor to say, oh, that family touches my heart, or that soldier, I want to help him. You never know when that one retweet is going to, help a veteran anywhere in our nation. It's just not one state. For me, that's the more digital soldiers we have, so to speak, the better, because that means the more veterans we can help. So please get out there and follow us and share those missions.
What sorts of things do the veterans who receive assistance or help or contact from you, what are their response when you lend a hand or provide that shoulder?
Oh, they are beyond grateful. Some of them just bawl on the phone and they're overwhelmed that their nation cares, because again, our donors are, throughout the country, and they're just floored that their veteran community is there to have their back. A lot of them have not felt that support and have felt kind of isolated after getting out of the military. And I'll share one quick phone call. We had a single dad, with PTSD, 2 small children. And he was in Georgia, and this was last year, during the shutdowns and the restrictions, and he was not able to pay his rent and basic utilities, just basic bills. He wasn't able to provide for his children because his job had sent him home. Everything was shut down. He worked at a bar as a bouncer. So he was when we sent him the funds, and we did it right away because, he was so stressed out and triggered from his PTSD. And he called me as soon as he got the funds, and he was bawling. And he said, "You have no idea what you've done for me and my children." He said, "I'm going to be able to sleep for the first time in, 2 weeks." And to have those conversations, that's our paycheck. Cindy and I, we work so hard every day, but when we hear the gratitude and just that, that humility in the voice of the veteran. It's just amazing. They're beautiful men and women who are so worthy. We've had a really rough year and a half, in our nation, and we need to step up there and be part of the recovery and be part of the stability of these vets.
Gretchen Smith, again, U.S. Air Force veteran and founder of the organization Code of Vets. You can find out more about what they do, why they do it, a little further than our conversation here this morning through their website at codeofvets.com. Again, basically an idea inspired, of course, as she mentioned, from her dad, who tragically took his own life. But with that said, Gretchen, you've turned a tragedy personally into inspiration for thousands upon thousands of people, and to see the traction that you've gained on social media, it's unbelievable. Anytime
thank you.
Anytime you would like us to promote something or any way, shape, or form possible, we're here in this little corner of our nation to help out and lend a hand.
I'm going to hold you to that, Joe. Thank you.
No, you got it. This is why we do the Freedom Friday segment. We take one segment a week, and specifically related to veteran issues. So thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
That's Gretchen Smith, again, founder of Code of Vets, codeofvets.com. Their website, again, exploding across social media, millions in donations. 98% of those donations go towards veterans in need, and they immediately provide assistance based on calls and inquiries that they get from veterans in need all across the country. Codeofvets.com.
Got the call to leave today. My team and I are gone away. Where to, how long? Well, that's a need to know. You can bet on us, 'cause we're good to go. I'm a patriot. I bleed red, white, and blue. I'm a patriot, American through and through. And I'll fight for this land I love, from the sea, the ground, or from high above. I'm a patriot. It's tough at home, but they know the drill. We've been doing it for years. Goodbyes at the terminal gate, little faces washed with tears. Well, it's plain to see it's my family. They pay a price too, and it shows. It's the fear in their eyes, it's my baby's cries, praying that I come back home. I'm a patriot. I bleed red, white, and blue. I'm a patriot, American through and through. And I'll fight for this land I love, from the sea, the ground, or from high above, 'cause I'm a patriot. Folks always ask me how it feels defending my country. I'm proud to fight for the stars and stripes, 'cause freedom isn't free. Not will I live or will I die, but will I let my brothers down? Can I live with what I've seen and done? Will I even be around? It's hard to see and it's killing me, but the price I can't let show. It's a pain in my eyes, it's my alibis. I wonder if I come back home. I'm a patriot. I bleed red, white, and blue. I'm a patriot, American, tried and true. And I'll fight for this land I love, from the sea, the ground, or from high above, 'cause I'm a patriot. I bleed red, white, and blue. I'm a patriot.
the page, yeah.
If you are over the age of 50 and considering buying an annuity in the next 60 days, I have some urgent news for you. Don't buy an annuity until you compare all of the rates and products available. A free annuity rate report has been released, which reveals the annuities with the highest guaranteed rates and lowest fees. Grab a pen right now to receive this free annuity rate report. We researched over 2,000 annuities and have summarized the safest annuities with the highest guaranteed rates in our free report. To find the best annuities, you need the right information. To receive your free, no-obligation annuity rate report, call 1-800-504-1712. That's 800-504-1712. Because when it comes to buying an annuity, shopping rates and products can save you thousands. Call 800-504-1712. 800-504-1712. 800-504-1712.
Brought to you by Brooks & Company.
Tune in to the WWAY News at 6 p.m.
Thank you for joining us tonight for your News at 6. I'm Hannah Patrick.
I'm Randy Aldridge. We want to get straight to our WWAY team coverage of last night.
For the biggest and most compelling stories that make a difference.
On the scene shortly after the blaze began and has the story now.
Cleveland is one of the fastest growing towns in the country.
First court appearance this morning in Pender County.
WWAY News at 6 p.m. This is the place.
Here, Tom Goolsby on the Joe Catanacci Show.
People with common sense know that the entire theory of socialism is one big lie.
The Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Acoustic wave therapy at the Frank Institute is a revolutionary treatment for inflammation, issues of blood flow, and is a solution for the constant suffering of chronic pain. Through the localized transmission of sound waves, stem cells are stimulated to bring about restored blood flow, vascular regeneration, and the disbursement of pain receptors to affected areas. If you've been told that your issues could not be treated without surgery or prescription, give us a call. Non-invasive, non-surgical, and prescription-free. Acoustic wave therapy is only available at the Frank Institute. Call today, 910-679-8534, and ask about acoustic wave therapy.
I am State Farm Agent Rob Renz, and I want to help you get to a better place. Visit us online at ilminsurance.com. That's ilminsurance.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
If we look to the answer as to why for so many years we achieved so much, prospered as no other people on earth, it was because here in this land we unleashed the energy and individual genius of man to a greater extent than has ever been done before. Freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and assured here than in any other place on earth. The price for this freedom at times has been high, but we have never been unwilling to pay that price. Those who say that we're in a time when there are no heroes, they just don't know where to look. The sloping hills of Arlington National Cemetery, with its row upon row of simple white markers bearing crosses or stars of David, they add up to only a tiny fraction of the price that has been paid for our freedom. Each one of those markers is a monument to the kind of hero I spoke of earlier. Their lives ended in places called Belleau Wood, the Argonne, Omaha Beach, Salerno, and halfway around the world on Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Pork Chop Hill, the Chosin Reservoir, and in 100 rice paddies and jungles of a place called Vietnam. Under one such marker lies a young man, Martin Treptow, who left his job in a small-town barber shop in 1917 to go to France with the famed Rainbow Division. There on the Western Front, he was killed trying to carry a message between battalions under heavy artillery fire. We're told that on his body was found a diary. On the flyleaf, under the heading My Pledge, he had written these words: America must win this war. Therefore I will work, I will save, I will sacrifice, I will endure. I will fight cheerfully and do my utmost as if the issue of the whole struggle depended on me alone. We must realize that no arsenal or no weapon in the arsenals of the world is so formidable as the will and moral courage of free men and women. It is a weapon our adversaries in today's world do not have. It is a weapon that we as Americans do have. Let that be understood by those who practice terrorism and prey upon their neighbors. As for the enemies of freedom, those who are potential adversaries, they will be reminded that peace is the highest aspiration of the American people. We will negotiate for it, sacrifice for it. We will not surrender for it now or ever. We are Americans.
When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, a decent respect requires that they declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident: that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. And whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to establish new government. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, do, and with the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved of all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved. In the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Keeping Oak Island informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
From Air Base is no longer in U.S. hands. The BBC's Yogita Lamaye says American forces have pulled out, leaving the Afghan military in charge.
All foreign troops leaving Bagram is a significant milestone in the end of international military operations in Afghanistan. As foreign militaries leave, violence in the country is worsening.
And more on that, the BBC's Jill McGivering.
Every morning brings fresh reports of overnight fighting. At the moment, battles between the Taliban and government forces in Herat, Badakhshan, Baghlan and Paktia are all making news. In recent weeks, the Taliban has seized control of dozens of districts, putting pressure on urban centres held by the government. Some reports suggest June saw some of the worst violence since the arrival of US troops 20 years ago, with hundreds of lives lost. And hard-won development is under threat too, with many schools, government buildings and power pylons now damaged or destroyed.
President Biden has vowed to have all U.S. troops out of Afghanistan by September 11th. Planning to fly this holiday weekend?
Pack your patience. Expect there's going to be lines at the airport. You know, their TSA lines will be a little longer. So don't get frustrated. Keep your mask on and just work your way through the line. That's really the best way to do it.
The AAA's Andrew Gross says pack your patience on the roads as well. They are expected to be quite crowded. At more than $3 a gallon, the average price of gasoline now at its highest level of the year. Economists estimate America's employers added 675,000 jobs last month. Later this morning, we'll find out if those experts are right. The government will be releasing the June employment report. On Wall Street, Dow futures 6 points higher, NASDAQ futures up 49, S&P futures 4 points higher. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Moose is the German Shepherd, now 11. And he's been an amazing dog. Moose is so active and so alert and hasn't had any kind of health problems at all. He has been on Dinovite since he's a puppy. DINOVITE.com. Now, Moose, at age 10, had a litter of 10 puppies with a friend's dog. We kept Lupo, his son, and the other puppies were given to friends, but one of the requirements was they must start those puppies on Dinovite. And someday, if Lupo has puppies, they'll be on Dinovite as well. We tell anybody that has a dog, if there was something that you could do right from the beginning so that you don't have expensive veterinary bills, why would you not do it? Get the Dinovite.
Dinovite for life. You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
I get my Dinovite from DINOVITE.com.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson will talk about COVID-19 travel restrictions with Germany's outgoing chancellor.
Angela Merkel may be standing down later this year, but she's packing her final months in office with trips abroad. Today, that means her 22nd official visit to Britain. The German Chancellor will meet another woman who understands longevity in office when she has a private audience with the Queen at Windsor Castle. She'll hold rather different talks with the Prime Minister at Chequers, his official country residence in Buckinghamshire. Boris Johnson's spokesman said the PM and the Chancellor would discuss COVID travel restrictions. Mr Johnson's under pressure to challenge Germany's insistence that fully vaccinated Britons must quarantine for 14 days.
That's BBC's James Landau. London police say a 23-year-old man due in court today for allegedly assaulting England's chief medical officer in a park in London. News and analysis at townhall.com. The top House Republican laying the groundwork for what he hopes will be a GOP majority in the House of Representatives.
Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy announced the creation of 7 task forces that will devise policy agendas should Republicans capture the House in the 2022 midterms.
The Biden administration Democratic policies are facing multiple crises in our country. We need solutions. That is why this week I announced the official launch of 7 issues, specific task force that will focus on identifying policies that will improve the lives of all families in America.
McCarthy will launch a climate task force and will also focus on reducing violent crime, energy policies, and helping Israel with defense. Bernie Bennett in Washington.
During his visit to Surfside, Florida yesterday, President Biden spent some time meeting with families of the 145 people who are still unaccounted for following last week's condo tower collapse. The death toll stands at 18. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here!
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore.
7 minutes past the top of the hour. You're tuned in to the Big Talker, 106.7 FM, coming to you atop the Murchison Building, overlooking Battleship, North Carolina, ahead of our nation's Independence Day. Our friend Chad Adams joins us every Freedom Friday inside this 8 o'clock block, hanging out on the beaches of Brunswick County. Chad, it's always a pleasure, my friend. I hope you're enjoying your morning so far.
Oh, it's a rough life down here, Joe. I tell you.
Oh, boy.
It makes me wonder why I didn't move down here 10 years sooner.
Yeah, well, you were here, 10 years ago, and then, you departed us.
But I was in Wilmington.
Yeah, you were.
I was in the CCP of New Hanover County. So,
indeed.
Move over to Brunswick because the air's different over there.
It is like a different world when you cross over that bridge, maybe a toll bridge, who knows, one day down the pipeline.
That's funny. You have to get permission to leave the county at one point in time. No, it was wonderful. I mean, it was, 4th of July being celebrated down here already, the big festival. Southport got a little weak in the knees about it with their mayor. And so yesterday, lots of activities down at Oak Island, and then fireworks last night over the ocean. Fantastic, amazing. Bands playing, people gathering, no fear. People acting responsibly and celebrating their freedoms. And then we get another round of fireworks coming up on Sunday evening. So it's going to be a lot of fun on the 4th. It's a great time to remember why we live in the greatest country on the planet and the sacrifices made to get us here, in spite of, the left, not liking the founding and really wanting to undo that something's horrifically wrong. The country that helped dig the entire world out of 2 world wars, who, fought for freedoms in every possible way, whether it be voting rights, getting rid of slavery and confronting our own past. We move forward better. The people who stand up, turn their backs on this flag, they can do that only in this country. In other countries, they get beheaded, thrown in prison, killed, their family members attacked. I mean, it's astounding the way the left's kind of insolent, childish pettiness becomes manifest every day.
Well, with that said, and you're bringing me down this path, a path that I swore to myself I was not going to go down on this Independence Day Friday going into the weekend. I wanted to be all about the founding of the nation and the brilliancy of those founding fathers, because in a time, just this week, we've highlighted at least 2 news stories from major news outlets praising the Chinese Communist Party. Just days away from our nation's Independence Day, you had ABC News and CNN, among some others, that, again, put the Chinese communists on top of a pedestal to provide, I guess, content to their viewers of, again, the ways in which China has operated over the past 100 years under communist rule, in a time when we are celebrating our Declaration of Independence from the British Crown. Why is it in this time that we've got our corporations, our news networks, our entertainers, our athletes, our 1%ers, you would say? Why is it that they seem to be cozying up to the idea of communism in China as compared to what this nation has provided as far as opportunities go and as far as, seeking, good over evil in this wild world we live in?
Well, they don't. Because they don't understand it. They see this Pollyannish, everybody will be provided a job, it'll all be wonderful. And they don't see the slave labor camps. They don't see the loss of freedom. They don't know what a lack of freedom looks like. They think that somehow this country is some manifestation of white supremacy. They don't see it as everybody has a right to go and pursue dreams regardless, and that life is unfair. That's one thing that's true about this country and every country on the planet. Life, the universe is kind of out to get you, but you have the ability to overcome obstacles and do things here that you can't do in other countries. You have the right to be different in this country and be a wackadoo. In other countries, if you try to, they'll kill you. So you can practice your faith. If you were in China and you tried to proselytize and take a Bible with you, there are places they will throw you in jail. I mean, that's the weirdest thing about this, that women aren't even allowed to drive in some countries. Women are not allowed to drive in some countries that Democrats send money to. I mean, that all of Congress, Republicans too. But I'm saying it's astounding the ignorance of those on the left that seem to think, Venezuela, if they'd have just done, socialism different, it would be good down there. Or if they'd just done it a little different in Cuba, they'd just done it a little different in China, it'd be better. No, it always ends up the same place. They don't do it better. And it always ends up, and maybe there's a degree of elitism with the political left. They want to be the ones in charge, because if you do set this structure up, the people at the top of the food chain, those in government, not the people that produced goods or services or created the latest, greatest iPhone. It's the people at the top in the political structure that have all the power, all the benefits, and the luxurious life, like Nancy Pelosi has when she's showing us 50 gallons of ice cream in her freezer.
Or tenured professors that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on a debunked, essay hit, which is now going to be commonplace in discussion inside our places of higher learning. Could copy some news from earlier this week up in Chapel Hill regarding that the Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative journalist with a complete
who demanded tenure before getting hired, and they gave it to her. I mean, that's the kind of bullying, and there's no assurance that she's even going to accept the job. But that's the kind of narcissism. I mean, Stacey Abrams now has 2 multi-million-dollar properties. She never said that she lost the governor's race. The left is like, oh, she didn't lose. I mean, it pays well to be the governor of Georgia for Stacey Abrams.
Chad Adams with us here this morning. Chad, as we get ready to honor, celebrate again our Declaration of Independence and our nation's freedom, and again the founding of our country. Why is it that in these days, and there's nothing wrong with having different emotions or fighting for injustices or things that you feel are wrong with our union as we strive to make it more perfect, of course, in the words of our founding fathers. They knew very well that they were not going to give us a perfect government, but hoped that involved and responsible citizens would continue to work to form a more perfect union. Why is it that we look at this, through emotion and anger, particularly those who want to erase much of the history or distort it, rather than approaching a conversation with logic and reason?
They are the result of the failures of the public education system. And I say that, it's attacking the teachers. No, I'm not attacking teachers. I'm attacking curriculums that make you put down. When you have these kind of freedom, what do we have freedom from? We took on the most powerful nation on the planet at that time. The sun never set on the British Empire. We took it on as a rejection of tyranny, a rejection of them being able to put soldiers in your house, a rejection of them being able to tax you without any representation in the form of government. So they saw these tyrannies of the fact that you couldn't be of different faiths, that you couldn't, have the kind of belief system that you had in God. So they saw all of these manifestations against freedom and put them together and said, you know what? The powers of the government are derived from the people, not from some monarch there or some dictator, from us. But for us, the government doesn't have these powers. And the left, over time, we've become so comfortable with freedom, we take it for granted. And a lot of why, critical race theory ended up in a lot of schools, not under that name, but in the same vein of thought that somehow white people are terrible, is because we got so comfortable with freedom, we forgot that it takes a lot of work to stay free. And American parents are waking up to this going, this is ridiculous. People of all races, all cultures, all the part of the great melting pot are waking up and rejecting this leftist, socialist, anti-American anger that is out there trying to turn us into an oppressed people. And so you're right. This is a celebration of these freedoms. It's a celebration of what's important to us. And there are moderates out there that are starting to realize this as well, saying, wait a minute, how did we get to this point? And the left just has been taught when they were kids, I guess they taught their kids, and the school system taught their kids to dislike the country and taught them that maybe other countries ought to be. We have to look at these. And they don't teach the evils of socialism. They don't teach that Stalin killed far more people than even Hitler did. They don't teach that the Chinese Communist Party has killed, even more people than Stalin's killed. That right now, as you and I are having this conversation, there are people in slave labor camps that are producing goods to be sold in this country. And the Democrats don't want to stand up to that. That right now, people in countries like Iran are being thrown off of buildings with nooses around their neck because they're gay. We can have disagreements here, But they don't realize what real the oppression of freedom is like in other countries. And so when you reject freedom here, what is your model for freedom elsewhere? We are still the country that everybody wants to come to. More people want to come to this country than any country on the planet. And we, the people that are here, many of them, especially on the left, reject that and want to try to make us look like something horrific that we're not. And it's kind of sad. I feel bad for them. Even some of the trolls on your page and mine, I feel really bad. They're just, upset, angry people all the time.
Well, we just wanted to use our platform, as big or small as it is, to defend our nation's history and founding today, because it doesn't seem to be getting much defense among those who have voices, particularly within news networks where millions and millions of people go to consume information day to day. This week they got a heavy dose of Chinese communism at a time when they should be telling the story of our nation's founding, good, bad, indifferent, and the ways in which men basically sacrificed everything they had for this idea that we shall be self-governed and not governed by a hierarchy.
But don't you love it when they get caught doing what they do and then they act like they didn't do it? I mean, like the critical race theory. Oh, you people just made this stuff up. Oh, what are you talking about? It's not in schools. Pieces of it have been placed in schools for decades now. And even on the defund the police, remember how the Biden administration is trying to say, oh, that's the Republicans are the ones trying to defund the police. Even it's kind of like, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? Because there's countless pieces of video footage where all of these Democrats are saying we need to defund the police, we need to break it down and get rid of it. It's astounding that when they get caught, they run away from the very things they believe in, which is just the proof that they just want to do it for power and for media hits. I don't know what they believe, but it's a mess. And, this 4th of July, I was pleased to be down here where, folks are really proud and celebrating, and it's an exciting time right now.
And on that note, I would say a very good portion of our society and country feels that way. And that's not to say that we feel the country is, a perfect union per se, but, they also, meaning the media, do a great job of magnifying the very minute portions of our population to make you believe that it is an overwhelming majority that feels the way they do.
Absolutely true. I mean, you see that day by day. Even in yesterday, the media going up the CFO of the Trump Organization and the perp walk and the Manhattan DA that has spent countless resources, millions and millions of dollars going after the former president. Meanwhile, people are getting gunned down in Times Square. They're not even seem to be concerned about trying to catch that individual. And not only that, but Cuomo, the Democrat governor of New York, multiple sex scandals, and then 10 to 20,000 people getting killed in rest homes due to his executive orders. And it's like, that doesn't matter. The obsession with majoring in minor things because it is driven by hate rather than any kind of philosophical construct, that's what should alarm people, because they can do it to anyone at any time, where they turn this machine on individuals and major in minor things and go after them. And that's something we should be concerned about, the encroachment of our freedoms, either with big tech or with the using government agencies to go after people, weaponizing government agencies. And so, that's not conspiratorial. We see it play out every day. I mean, look at the Hunter Biden story. That is an absolutely true. The media tried to say it was fake and fake news. It wasn't. It was absolutely a real story. The laptop was a real thing. And we see this being pushed away. The media doesn't want to deal with these realities. They push false narratives that weren't true, like a Steele dossier and other crap. So, it's really important. It's really important for people to pay attention to what's going on around their kids, their lives, their city councils, their county commissions. It is important, because if we just take this stuff for granted, we're going to look around one day. You'll be sitting outside with your hopefully you've got not a government sponsored beer, but you look around and you go, wait a minute, how did we get to this point? And that's what's happening now in America. A lot of people are waking up going, how did we get to this point where these people actually have relevancy that are absolute wackadoos?
Our friend Chad Adams with us from the shores of Brunswick County this morning. Chad, I know you're going to celebrate Independence Day. It's been a wild year, a wild 18 months, whether it be from a broad perspective or even personally. We all got our own stuff that we got to go through. But this weekend we get to celebrate the greatness of the opportunities we're afforded here in this country.
Look, I had a physical this week, and I'm talking to my doctor, and a great guy. I'm glad to be on this side of the earth, right, on 6 feet above ground rather than 6 feet under it. But I tell you what, we were talking about the COVID stuff, and he went through. He said, "Look, I don't know." He said, "I don't know why we spend so much time focusing on young people with all the COVID stuff." He said, 1,200 patients or so. He said, "Really, it's obesity, it's age, it's diabetes. These are huge with respect to the actual threat of this disease. There are some outliers." But he said, you can't, he says, I as a doctor can't go out and say these things because the media will attack you and you'll be made fun of. But these young people, all these young people, they're not at risk. They're relatively young. Look, over 1,000 people at UNCW, and to my knowledge, not one of them went to the hospital. And we're obsessed with this. And I was just reading a good article on the Delta variant today, and it's like the vaccine still does provide some protection. I know there's a lot of people that are against vaccines. Fine, you can be. But don't act like these things don't help. They do, and they are mitigating, whatever the threat of the virus is. And for a lot of people, the virus is, look, your common cold is a COVID variant. Most COVIDs are not this unique COVID-19, but, variants of it, and a lot of people do fine with it. But we have made it so political and so contentious that people, they almost want to kill each other over the deadliness of the COVID virus.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff. And in fact, in just a little while, I was trying to stray away from the political banter this morning, but in just a little while, we'll be talking with a medical doctor, in fact, in regards to the airlines continuing to keep the mask mandates in place, along with Chad, just wait till after the 4th of July weekend. Well, apparently the National Education Association has a item on their agenda upcoming that will discuss and call for mandatory vaccinations potentially and testings of all students and
Kids
staff before returning
That's
to.
That's a horrible policy. For kids especially who don't need it and don't spread it as much. And this is the kind of stuff when people say they discuss science, make sure you challenge them and that they actually are discussing science. And I agree with you, Joe. Hey, there's some stuff percolating around Governor Cooper and possibly trying to reinstitute an erosion of freedoms again. There's some lawsuits that are pending right now. I hoped I had all the information to discuss with you this morning, but we are a lot of folks are working on that, and I'll get that to you as soon as that comes together. But you can't let this happen again. We can't let it happen again.
Already creating another class of dependency over the past year on our government. As you look at the statistics, the welfare numbers, the government assistance. Like I said, those who make good money and have been able to weather this storm because they work in technology remotely, they make. I think I saw a study. If you're making over $65,000 a year, the unemployment rate remained flat over the course of the last 16 months. You made under $60,000 a year, the unemployment skyrocketed for you, which again, just to me, qualifies the thought that this whole thing really, as we played it out, was just another way in which to create another level of dependency on government in our society.
10 million people without work, 9 million job openings. Says a lot. And that's the kind of craziness. And when these unemployment benefits run out, there's going to be a reckoning of sorts, and all of this stuff about eviction moratoriums that are crushing people with mortgages on those rental properties. So, the left has created this false sense of things right now. But look, building prices are coming down. That could be good. There's a lot of potentially good things out there, but the government has created more monkey wrenches in this economy and a manifestation of the political left and the way they do things and try to create that dependency. It doesn't work over the long haul. Never does.
As the government typically does, creates more hurdles and obstacles for the people to survive and thrive than the latter, as we see. Chad, thanks a lot, man.
Yeah. Have a good weekend. Happy 4th, Joe.
And a happy 4th of July to you and to all of our listeners out there as we continue the discussion here this morning on the Big Talker FM. We're going to get into the politics of COVID in just a bit with Dr. Sal Giorgianni of the Men's Health Network. Well, maybe not the politics, but more of the science and the data. As Dr. Sal of the Men's Health Network wants to give his thoughts on a question that I posed to him over an email just the other day. When will the government-funded airline industry let us take our masks off? As I went to the airport just the other day to pick up my mother-in-law, and I quickly was reminded, given that I hadn't flown in a few weeks, that, in the airports, on the airlines, you got to mask up. And I don't know if this policy is going to go anywhere based on what we heard from the president of the International Association of Flight Attendants during testimony this week. telling us that masks are still very critical for limiting the spread of COVID on airline flights. We'll hear from the doctor, Dr. Sal Giorgianni of the Men's Health Network, when we get back from the bottom of the hour news break. But again, continuing kind of a celebratory feeling that we've got moving into the Independence Day weekend. Hopefully you've got some plans. I get it. Locals, and get out to the beach, get out on the boat, let the tourists come in, and we'll just hang out in the backyard. I have a few friends that are going out to the mountains this weekend to celebrate. Well, we're going to throw down. Last year, I was in COVID quarantine. The country was shut down. I can deal with a few crowded beaches and, having to navigate the parking situation. We're going to throw down this weekend. We're 27 minutes past the hour here on the Big Talker FM.
Shout, cows are marching all about, and those caissons go rolling along. For it's high, high in the field artillery. Count out your numbers loud and strong. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And wherever you go, you will always know that those caissons go rolling along.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. Florida officials are working on plans to demolish what's left of a partially collapsed oceanfront condominium building. The plans were revealed yesterday after concerns about the structure's instability prompted a 15-hour halt to the search for survivors. After rescue efforts resumed last night, officials said they had started planning for the likely demolition of the remaining structure. Donald Trump's company and its longtime finance chief were charged yesterday in what a prosecutor called a sweeping and audacious tax fraud scheme. The indictment says Trump Organization CFO Alan Weissenberg allegedly received more than $1.7 million in off-the-books compensation, including apartment rent, car payments, and school tuition. Both Weisselberg and lawyers for the Trump Organization pleaded not guilty. The North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission is taking part in a nationwide campaign starting today, running through July 4th. It's called Operation Dry Water. The mission of the nationally coordinated effort is to promote sobriety while boating and educate boaters about the dangers of boating while under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Lieutenant Forrest Orr of the Wildlife Commission said they ultimately want to reduce the number of alcohol and drug-related incidents and fatalities on the water. And lots of people are wondering, will Wilmington's new Riverfront Park be ready to open in time for the holiday? A ribbon cutting is planned for this afternoon, and on Sunday, the 4th of July, the new venue will host a number of free concerts. For more on the City of Wilmington's 4th of July activities and the grand opening celebration for North Riverfront Park, look for this story on our website, wwaytv3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day and a safe 4th of July.
Happy Friday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with this Storm Track 3 forecast. Well, today is going to be a bit on the unsettled side, so keep the rain gear with you. We're going to see scattered showers and some tropical downpours take shape late this afternoon into the evening hours, so do keep that in mind today. And as we head into the second half of the day, we are going to see temperatures get back into the low to middle 80s, a few degrees cooler than normal. Shower activity should wrap up late tonight, allowing for lower humidity to settle in just in time for the holiday weekend. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
All right, as we head into the second half of our program until 10 o'clock here, leading into an Independence Day weekend, beaches already packed, as I saw yesterday out on Pleasure Island, down on Oak Island, beaches of Brunswick County. Of course, somehow, some way, the town of Southport got away with essentially canceling or limiting the big 4th of July celebration that is known as North Carolina's 4th of July festival. Southport, some way, some shape or form, was going to cancel it, and then a little outcry from the businesses in the area, those who are accustomed to coming into town, and so they moved forward with a very limited schedule. What I miss most this year is that big naturalization ceremony that they've traditionally held there on the waterfront that will not take place for the second straight year. So 18 months ago, Dr. Sal, I would have told you you probably needed to find a padded room if you were to tell me that a strip of fabric was about to become the most contentious topic of political discourse, the stuff of presidential politics, the theme of many sketches on the late-night comedy shows. Some people would be burning masks in protests. Others would be spending I don't know, $400 for a silken face covering. Yet here we are, Dr. Sal Giorgianni of the Men's Health Network. What a turbulent 18 months that we've lived through. I went to the airport, Dr. Sal, just the other day to pick up my mother-in-law, and I was reminded, because I haven't traveled by air in a couple of weeks, a couple of months really, that in fact, at the airlines and in the airports, you got to mask up. When is this going to end?
Good morning, and thank you for having me back on your show again, Joe, and happy Independence Day to you and all your listeners. I don't know when it's going to end. There are some signals that we can use to help predict it. We have a tension, though, I think in the airlines and all the transportation groups, there's a tension going between what is medically illustrated or medically decided that you can do versus what the unions and other employees of the airlines and transportation industry believe is in their best interest. Medically speaking, I did check, and I spoke with someone from HHS a couple of days ago about it. There have been very, very few in the United States of any reported COVID cases because of airline travel. Now, part of that is, of course, because there are precautions being taken, but part of that is also because the airlines have done an amazingly good job of making sure that the environment within their aircraft is safe, and they've enhanced a lot of the, equipment for air filtration and such, and the decreased load. I do think that even some in the government may be looking forward to not being able to need masks on airlines. Pete Buttigieg, the Secretary of Transportation, a few weeks ago was on saying that he hopes it'll be very soon that we can drop mask requirements. But I think here this is one of the situations, as we see in so many others, alluding to your opening comments, where local officials are making up rules which are based on the type of science they want to believe. And, you get 6 lawyers in a room, you'll get 12 opinions. You get 6 scientists in a room, and you'll get 12 opinions, maybe 14, particularly in these days. So I think that's part of the confusion, and that's what's part of frustrating Americans and people around the world.
In preparation for our conversation, I did find an article where the president of the International Association of Flight Attendants was testifying somewhere this week and alerting whom she was speaking to that masks, in her mind, are still very critical for limiting the spread. So that doesn't, to me, provide, some hope that this is going to end soon, as you mentioned, the transportation secretary talked about just a little while ago. So we'll see where we go. I did also catch a little nugget in regards to schools. Next thing you know, it'll be the upcoming academic year. We'll get back into the schools, and I saw that up for discussion and debate over the next couple of weeks. The National Educators Association will be having a debate surrounding mandatory vaccinations and testing at our schools in order to get the okay from them to move forward with human-to-human instruction like we once knew it.
Well, boy, I read that same article, and I read this duplicated in many other venues, and all of these folks have agreed, I think tacitly, implicitly, or explicitly, that we need to follow the science. And I know the Federation of Teachers and other union-type organizations or organizations that represent large blocks of individuals have their own medical advisors, as does Men's Health Network. But I think the guidance has to come from places that are a little bit more weighty in their science, such as CDC, FDA, and NIH. And I believe that unless something has changed in the past couple of hours, because it does change that fast, Joe, they have all recommended for a long time that children get back to school and school reopens up in a safe way. Whether it's advisable to continue to test children and traumatize them, they are still very young, still very impressionable. Whether it's required to vaccinate all children, I don't believe I've seen anything that says that that's absolutely necessary. We go way back till April. There were quite a lot of data that said that children do not need to be kept away from school. that you can bring them back to school for a lot of reasons. I don't know that data has changed. We do have availability of the vaccines, and that's very controversial for many, many people.
And with that said, I could not imagine, beginning another school year with reverting back to the way, life once was, particularly because we're just starting to get, kind of a peek as to, how far maybe our kids, particularly kids who are already, struggling in school, how far behind they are and what the impacts of that will be, in the years ahead is, well, we kind of know where we're going, and it's not going to look good as far as, educationally speaking, and being able to keep up with proficiency and whatnot, with remote only or a couple of days a week. This is not going to look good for some young people. But young people are resilient, and they persevere much better than adults do in many cases. No, Dr. Sal?
They do. They have much more robust immunologic systems than older folks, such as myself. They do persevere. Men's Health Network just recently completed a series of monographs on COVID and the impact on mental health and behavioral health in boys and men that was funded by PCORI. And one of the groups that we looked at were the vulnerable populations, including children in foster home situations, in schools, those individuals with intellectual disabilities. And they are taking a very, very hard hit with all of this loss of social interaction, with loss of education. Many minority communities where the educational system is not always fulfilling the needs of those or individuals are also not being helped by this isolation and this the lack of guidance within the school situation. So there are a lot of groups out there, a lot of populations of young individuals that really do need to get back to school and back to the social situation as well as the educational situation. And that can't come if we're going to require vaccinations for every child before they go to school. It's just not going to happen, because every study I've seen indicates that 20 to 25% of Americans will refuse vaccine. And I am going to guess that that's going to be a little bit higher in younger people, where parents will refuse vaccination of younger people. So if you have about 25 to 30% of the school-age children who will not be vaccinated, what do you do? Do you deny them entry to classes? Do you deny them the education that they need, that society needs? It's a very, very thorny dilemma. So I hope the teachers' unions look at that part of it very, very critically when they say everybody must be vaccinated, and the reality that we can refuse vaccination for our children.
Dr. Sal Giorgianni with the Men's Health Network. Dr. Sal, before I let you go, I know you joined us a couple of weeks back to highlight Men's Health Month throughout June. Of course, we're now in July, but that doesn't shade away from the fact that in these broader conversations we're having, particularly over the past year, and we reiterated that, and we'll do it again here this morning, the last time you joined us, the importance of making sure that you're taking care of yourself, your family, your loved ones, and your friends, just overall, generally, physically, mentally, through a balanced diet. This is a conversation that is rarely had, despite the fact that we're in the middle of an epidemic of obesity, heart disease, and many other preventable types of diseases and ailments that with just a little exercise, a little mental stimulation, and a balanced diet could fix a lot of these problems when we talk about general overall health and wellness.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Thank you for that, for opening up that dialogue. Yeah, we at Men's Health Network believe that masculinity includes good health and health habits. It's part of modern masculinity, taking care of yourself. And unfortunately, as you also suggested, 9 out of the 10 leading causes of death in the United States, men still lead in 9 of them. Most of those are preventable and manageable. And unfortunately, this leads to a scenario where men live 5 years less than women on average in the United States. And that also can be correctable. Men's Health Network, American Public Health Association, all endorse the notion that guys need to take a page out of the ladies' health care playbook and take personal responsibility for their own health.
Dr. Sal Giorgianni, Senior Science Advisor to the Men's Health Network. Dr. Sal, it's always a pleasure. Thanks so much for the time, and I hope you enjoy the Independence Day weekend.
Yes, you as well, and thank you. I'll be happy to be back anytime you like.
And great Great to have you a part of our program again with the Men's Health Network. It's time right now to take charge of your overall health. Let's make healthier lifestyle, wellness choices, little exercise each day, something that'll stimulate the mind, maybe a good book, and a balanced diet. It doesn't take much to get yourself on a path for a healthier future and lifestyle. Yet somehow, some way, again, 9 out of 10 leading causes of death, among men, and very preventable when we talk about the obesity pandemic we're dealing with, the situation that goes on with heart disease in our country. Take some sacrifice, some thought, and some planning, but once you get yourself in that regimen and that daily schedule and routine, it's just like anything else. We're 13 minutes in front of the hour here on the Big Talker FM. If you'd like to phone in, our call-in number is 910-299-7535.
Fighting soldiers from the sky, fearless men who jump and die, men who mean just what they say, the brave men of the Green Beret, silver wings upon their chest. These are men, America's best. 100 men will test today, but only 3 win the Green Beret. Trained to live off nature's land, trained in combat hand to hand, men who fight by night and day, courage take from the Green Beret, silver wings upon their chest. These are men, America's best. 100 men will test today, but only 3 win the Green Beret. Back at home, a young wife waits. Her Green Beret has met his fate. He has died for those oppressed, leaving her this last request. Put silver wings on my son's chest. Make him one of America's best. He'll be a man they'll test one day. Have him win the Green Beret.
We interrupt to bring you this horrible news. Experts say we'll see larger numbers and different breeds of mosquitoes to wreak havoc on your backyard, making this year one of the worst.
Anopheles inculeata mosquito.
Yeah. Experts also say there is only one defense against this onslaught. Call the Bugman from Bugno Pest Control.
That's Mr. Bugno to you, pal.
Bugno Pest Control's mosquito-killing formula keeps your yard bug-free. Call Bugno Pest Control, 910-367-2501, or visit bugnopestcontrol.com. Take back your yard.
Folks, we all know ongoing road construction and traffic can weigh heavy on your vehicle. Since 2006, O'Leary's Automotive Repair has provided comprehensive repair services at affordable prices to get you back on the road in no time. Their ASE-certified technicians will help you find a cost-effective repair and maintenance alternatives. O'Leary's has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
Hey, this is Matt Ham, co-founder of Uprint and the co-host of Wake Up Our Faith, every Saturday and Sunday right here on Wilmington's Big Talker. We invite you to join with our nonprofit movement by participating in the Portable Faith Community. This is a $10 a month tax-deductible contribution, and you get access to daily encouragement, resources, as well as our prayer community. You can go to wakeupmyfaith.com to get subscribed and learn more. That's wakeupmyfaith.com.
Mic check, mic check.
It's Yael Ossowski here, Deputy Director of the Consumer Choice Center. You'll hear me every Friday at 9:30 on the Mornings with Joe Catanacci Show, giving you the latest in consumer news, analysis, and political topics to make sure you get your consumer fix. Then hear me and my radio partner in crime, David Clement, on the Consumer Choice Radio Show, Saturdays at 10. Only here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
How far would you go if you had a group of strong, amazing people who support, motivate, and inspire one another to achieve their fitness goals and dreams? At Full Circle Fitness, we aren't just a place to work out. We're a community of amazing people who work together to reclaim our bodies and do things we thought we'd never be able to do again. Ready to set your fears aside and stop making excuses? Call today, Full Circle Fitness, 910-399-8350, or visit FullCircleFitnessNC.com.
As we creep closer towards 9 o'clock here this morning, if you'd like to call in now until, 10 o'clock, our phone lines will be open for you at 910-299-7535. Not going to lie, I was tuned into Objection to the Forum last night, the Thursday locally produced show by our friend Justin Humphreys of the Humphreys Law Firm, and he came into the Ric Flair entrance theme. I said, I got to have it. Sorry, Justin. Though Justin, I got to say, yesterday touched on a couple of timely topics, specifically focused here in North Carolina on the decision by the Council of State this week, because all of a sudden the governor, as pressure builds to lift some of the restrictions and other protections that have been in place over the course of the last 18 months, as pressure mounts to eliminate some of these things, well, the governor now all of a sudden wants to push forward with conversations involving the Council of State. This is a group of elected officials who, again, are on the statewide ballot, meaning the lieutenant governor, the state treasurer, the attorney general, the state auditor, the state insurance secretary, the secretary of agriculture, among some others. And throughout the course of the entire 18 months of the pandemic, it's been kind of a my way or the highway sort of approach by the governor, who is unwilling to engage in the conversations with the Council of State when keeping restrictions in place, putting forth new executive orders. And now all of a sudden this week he has a premonition that he wants to involve the Council of State because he kind of knew that Republicans who've been calling for this for several months, as we've seen in other states, to end protections and restrictions that have been in place for the last 18 months. The Republicans want to end the extra federal unemployment benefits, as other states have done. Of course, in those states, that they've seen an uptick in job searches and people finding employment because there are plenty of jobs out there. In fact, got a very encouraging jobs report here today, highlighting the fact that Republican-led states are guiding our economy right now, as Democrat states hold on to the power as best they can. Governor, of course, also Council of State this week votes to end some of the protections for tenants in regards to eviction notices, as landlords have had to struggle with, of course, the fact that, well, many of their tenants hit some hard times by no fault of their own, unable to keep up with the rent and, under contracts and other sorts of agreements. You miss a month, you miss 2 months, well, you have to find a new place to live. You're out. There's been a protection and a moratorium on those evictions for the better part of 18 months. Well, the Council of State voted this week to end that moratorium and protection, and the media took it as, well, nothing to do with the governor. It was the Council of State that we should be blaming and criticizing for this decision. The politics of the BS COVID-19 Chinese Communist virus continue. 910-299-7535 is our number. Caller, thanks for holding, and good morning.
Hi, Joe. This is a fellow Oak Islander down here calling again. I just wanted to make a comment about why this is continuing on and on and on and on. They saw how wonderful this whole COVID thing worked with the shutdown for the last election. They will keep some kind of restriction or some kind of scare tactic going on until it gets closer to the election, and then there's going to be some big, huge tragedy, and it's either going to be postponed or they're going to have to do some other dire circumstances because they know they are in trouble. If they really believed the stuff they're feeding us, they would never help bring undocumented children who are not vaccinated and spread them all across our country. That's all you have to know. If they really cared about the public, and if they really cared and weren't trying to kill people off, they would never have put the older people in the rest homes after they were sick. You know, older people are usually more conservative than younger people.
Astute
So that's all I'm
observation,
saying.
and thank you for the call. And we love our friends out in Oak Island. In fact, half of our company lives and resides out there, so we've got a little special place in our heart for those on the island and over in Brunswick County, which is, of course, why we have launched a new weekly talk show on Tuesday nights from 6 to 7 p.m. titled All Things Brunswick, where they navigate issues from, Calabash to Leland and everywhere in between. Feel free, ma'am, to call in anytime at 910-299-7535. All about power and influence. Who would have thought? You know, we talk about this idea of herd immunity along with the vaccination numbers. You know, that's the wrong approach in my mind to talk about and provide an argument and a defense as to why we should be lifting restrictions. As we approach our Independence Day weekend, the celebration of our nation's birth, all that science, all that sort of stuff, all right, we can bring that to the table, but herd immunity, levels of vaccinations, that should not be the argument for lifting restrictions. Your fundamental, unalienable human rights is the argument for lifting restrictions. This can never, ever happen again. There was never a good data point or reason for any of this. 14 days to flatten the curve, another month, now 3 months, and then 8 months, and then we ain't putting the kids back in school, and then 18 months. Don't see the argument to them. Your fundamental, unalienable human rights is the argument for lifting restrictions. We're moving up into the top of the hour. As I promised, towards the start of the program, 2 weekly guests who join our program, Richard Battle and Ray Nothstein. They have penned 2 pieces that I want to call attention to. One at CarolinaJournal.com, where Ray has his piece focused on one of our founding fathers. And Richard kind of building off of the conversation we had earlier this week as to why we should be looking at our nation's birthday and the Declaration of Independence through the eyes of logic and reason and not emotion and anger. And we'll touch on those 2 articles highlighting our nation's Independence Day when we get back.
Keeping Leland informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
This hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. The U.S. economy continues to recover from the coronavirus pandemic, and that recovery is reflected in the just-released June employment report. Correspondent Jeremy House says employers added 850,000 jobs last month.
June's number is well above the average of the previous 3 months and a sign that companies may be having an easier time finding enough workers to fill open jobs. The Labor Department report represents the latest sign that the reopening of the economy is propelling a powerful rebound from the pandemic recession. Restaurant traffic across the country is nearly back to pre-pandemic levels. More people are shopping, traveling, and attending sports as well as entertainment events.
The unemployment rate did tick up to 5.9% last month. Americans are getting out and about again. The AAA's Andrew Gross says that will be reflected in busy airports and crowded highways this holiday weekend.
People should be expecting that the empty roads of the past year are kind of over.
The AAA expects more than 47.7 million Americans to travel over the long holiday weekend. As the U.S. troop pullout from Afghanistan continues, control of the key Bagram Air Base has been transferred to the Afghan military. And as the Americans exit, thousands of Afghans trying to flee.
Large numbers of people have been crowding the passport office in Kabul, hoping to secure exit visas. Abdullah Saeed, who's a lecturer at Kabul University, says our people have been struggling for around 40 years.
Now our people thinking if our government cannot to control this situation, maybe the civil war will be started.
Others say they're very concerned of a possible return of the Taliban. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Dow futures are up 88 points. NASDAQ futures ahead 77. S&P futures 12 points higher. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Moose is the German Shepherd, now 11, and he's been an amazing dog. Moose is so active and so alert and hasn't had any kind of health problems at all. He has been on Dinovite since he's a puppy. DINOVITE.com. Now, Moose, at age 10, had a litter of 10 puppies with a friend's dog. We kept Lupo, his son, and the other puppies were given to friends, but one of the requirements was they must start those puppies on Dinovite. And someday, if Lupo has puppies, they'll be on Dinovite as well. We tell anybody that has a dog, if there was something that you could do right from the beginning so that you don't have expensive veterinary bills, why would you not do it? Get the Dinovite.
Dinovite for life.
You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
I get my Dinovite from DINOVITE.com.
A fugitive leader of the Greek neo-Nazi Golden Dawn Party detained in Athens after months on the lam.
Christos Papas hadn't been seen since reporting to police 3 weeks before the trial verdict. He'd been holed up in an Athens suburb, and a Ukrainian woman is suspected of harbouring him. Despite physical attacks on foreigners, Golden Dawn was the third largest party in Parliament in 2012. But its fortunes declined after a Golden Dawn employee stabbed to death an anti-fascist rapper in an Athens cafe in 2013. After a 5-year trial, a court last October ruled Golden Dawn was a criminal organisation. Papas is the last of the leaders to be taken to jail.
The BBC's Mike Sanders. Thousands being evacuated from villages around a rumbling volcano near the Philippine capital, but officials face a dilemma preventing emergency shelters from becoming epicenters of COVID-19 infection. Townhall.com. President Biden has offered comfort to the families affected by the condo building collapse during a visit to Surfside, Florida.
After spending several hours meeting privately with family members, the president said he told them to never give up hope.
They're praying and pleading that God, let there be a miracle.
And he spoke of their resilience.
I walked away impressed by their strength.
In addition to offering his prayers and comfort, the president said the federal government would cover 100% of the rescue costs for the first month and also provide temporary housing for survivors. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Recapping the hour's lead story, the government has just released the June employment report. It shows that America's employers grew their payrolls by 850,000 jobs last month. Same time, the unemployment rate did tick up to 5.9%. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here!
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore.
Final hour of the broadcast week is upon us. Cruising into a 4th of July weekend across southeastern North Carolina, atop the Murkinson Building, overlooking downtown Wilmington and Battleship, North Carolina. You're tuned in to the Big Talker, 106.7 FM. I apologize for those who were trying to get through during the break. Nature called, so I had to step out and I realized I saw like 3 or 4 missed calls. So if you'd like to chime in, our number is 910-299-7535. That's 910-299-7535. And we'll get into the COVID stuff, Tuesday of next week. I wanted to try and highlight, the story of our nation's independence over the next 50 or so minutes with a few articles that have been published by contributors to our program, and Richard Battle and Ray Nothstein. And I'll do that here in just a moment. 910-299-7535 is our number. Caller, you're with us. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing right. All right. How are you?
Good, man. Hey, couple of points to what you've been talking about last hour. First off, Alexander Hamilton said those who are willing to give up safety for freedom deserve neither safety or freedom, which is why these people who have backed Coopers and all these Democratic draconian measures to lock us down are so they're scared. They're scared of everything, and they don't deserve. Not that they don't deserve it. Everyone deserves freedom. It's a God-given right, but they're not willing to do the necessary things to keep this country safe and be good citizens. Second, to the jobs thing, I'm a 100% disabled veteran. I was a mechanic in the Coast Guard for 21 years, and I'm making over $30 an hour, and I can't find help fixing boats. In one of the biggest boating communities in the world, we've been offering people like $24, $25 an hour, and we're getting
crickets.
Nothing, no crickets, because no one wants to work. Everyone's getting that $300 a month extra, plus the unemployment. So they just sitting on their couches, festering until as you call him, King Cooper decides that we're going to stop handing out free money to sit at home and do nothing.
You would like to think that there aren't masses of people doing that, but it's hard to believe when every sort of business throughout all industries are having the same issue, right?
Oh yeah, everywhere. And I kind of feel they're doing it for 2 reasons. One is to get this minimum wage to take up to $15, $16, $17 an hour, which the free market has. I've been here for 2 years since I left the military, and the wages are already. That's happening naturally. Capitalism was working. That's happening naturally before all this all even happened. Because when I came into the marine industry, in the private sector, I was offered $24 an hour, and having switched companies, I'm already earning $11 more an hour than I was 2 years ago. So and if you look at the starting salaries and everything on Indeed, those are all ticking up. I'm not looking for a job, but I always look to see what everyone else is offering, so that I can encourage, my boss here to stay competitive to what's being offered out there, and she does. But yeah, I mean, people are just crickets. I mean, we're even willing to train people. We're even willing to give decent We're even willing to give decent salary to train people to take on apprentices and stuff like that.
I mean, if you just have an ounce of work ethic and a little will, I mean, right now is the best time, maybe in my lifetime, almost 40 years, where you could pretty much set the bar as far as what you want, and all sorts of negotiating that you can pursue with a potential employer, whether it be compensation, time off, benefits. I mean, you could literally probably run a company within a month if you just showed up and did your job.
Oh yeah, no doubt. There's no doubt. If you have work ethic, You know, you can't teach work ethic.
Right.
You can teach skills.
Right. Yeah. Well,
give people skills.
Hey, thanks for the call, man.
You know, hey, no worry, man. Good talking to you. I listen to your show every day. Happy 4th, and God bless America. Thanks, brother.
And God bless you. And we will always, on this program and the way in which we operate day to day, always remember the service of our caller and the millions of others who have had a call to serve our country in our armed forces. We always remember folks like him. 910-299-7535 is our number if you'd like to chime into the program. And again, this larger conversation on giving people a livable wage. Again, my thought is that we are approaching that statement and way of life from a completely sour point of view. We should be looking at, the 35-40% of your income that is taxed forcibly by the government in one way, shape, or form. You want to talk about a livable wage? Well, what if 20% of that 40% taxable income stayed in your pocket? Well, then your wage would be livable. Are we getting the bang for our buck when it comes to the massive amounts of taxes that we pay? Next week, I'm going to touch on a topic in regards to taxation. Well, without representation, of course, is the founding of our nation. But slowly across the country, you're starting to see states, particularly Republican-led states, push initiatives to make their respective states more competitive from a taxation standpoint. In fact, there are 13 states in the union right now that are considering or have already moved forward with reductions in income tax, personal and corporate taxes that are implemented on business. Here in North Carolina, we've told you the story time and time again as far as what the last decade has looked like. Leading into the recession of 2008, 2009, your personal income tax was 8.25% under Democrats. That personal income tax rate is now at 5.25%, with proposals out there to drop it to below 4% over the next couple of years. Republicans in North Carolina want to eliminate the corporate tax rate, which would put us in a group of only 4 other states in the union that have completely eliminated the corporate tax rate. Those other states, of course, well, Florida, Texas, Arizona. States that are faring quite well when it comes to the ways in which their economy is growing as compared to states that are shrinking. But in regards to tax competitiveness, well, the proof is in the pudding, folks. 14 states with proposals out there to lower taxes on their citizens and business, once again showcasing the fact that, well, in the eyes of some lawmakers across the country, when you're competitive from a tax standpoint, you have a chance to grow your state's economy, despite the arguments that you hear from the other side of the political aisle. Here in our state, from King Cooper, for instance, he pushes the tired old argument that we're just providing benefits and tax cuts for the rich, which is a completely misleading point of view to once again stir the pot and divide us through this idea of class warfare. 910-299-7535. You guys bring me back into it. I want to talk about our nation's independence, and you just get me on the politics of the day, because we've got just piles of notes highlighting all of this and defending a lot of the things that we're saying, qualifying much of what we're saying. Caller, you're with us. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Joe. Hey, thanks for everything you do. So I think we can say that the Board of Trustees at the prestigious University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, got played like a cheap fiddle. So, yeah, there we go. They had a great out. She had denied their offer of employment, so they didn't have to give her a job, and they could let the lawsuit go through. Anyway, so watching the news, what you didn't see, what you saw were peaceful protesters quietly holding signs. what you didn't see watching the news is where the people storming into the Board of Trustees meetings, disrupting meetings, having to be forcibly removed, who she praised for them for doing that and wants to know their names so she can go buy them a drink or whatever. And also, you didn't see the people yelling through blowhorns outside the door while the meeting was going on and making direct threats to the Board of Trustees while they were trying to make this decision. Yeah, and I'll take that and turn that into when Judy Justice 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago went to the Democrat meeting here in Wilmington and asked for help at the school board meetings. That's what she wants. She wants people who are going to forcibly enter into the school board meetings and disrupt them and yell and scream and use threats of violence and use intimidation to A, scare people off who are trying to make the community better, and B, silence the voices during the meetings so they can't be heard. And that's what she's asking for. And this is how these people operate. Threats and intimidation. That's what's been going on for a year and a half now. Is that right? With all this going on, and that's what we're looking at. And nobody says anything about it, and everything's okay. And now she's going to take some time off because, it's been a real traumatic experience for her. She's not really sure if she can take it. They've taken her name off the roll for the classes she was supposed to teach. So I'm assuming she's not going to teach.
So you're saying it was all a ploy maybe to just stir up animosity, division, emotion, and anger once again.
Isn't that what all this is? Isn't all this theater? Everything is theater, right? It's all theater. It's all designed to make people emotionally charged and get them to act in irrational manners and violent manners is what we've been seeing for a long time. And then they've got total cover, from the media who don't report what they're actually doing. Again, there were no pictures or images of the people storming into the rooms, the bullhorns, the threats that were being made. They're saying, "Do you think you're safe in there? You're not safe in there." I mean, that's a threat. That's a direct threat to somebody. And these people on Board of Trustees, they have businesses, they have families, they have children. So I mean, they're intimidated. And I think they made a decision under duress. And that's what Judy Justice and her crew want to have happen here, and that's what's going to happen. And we need July 13th. We have another school board meeting here in the county, and we need everybody who can come out who cares about their kids. We need you to come out and support the people who are trying to do the right thing for the kids. Keep this CRT teaching, which doesn't exist, out of the school systems, and get these people to make the right decisions. And we need those people here. And because they were called when we were there last time, the people on the other side, the people who physically blocked entry into the school board meeting, the people who were oppressed, who were blocking the entry into the school board meeting, they were texting and calling because they were outnumbered, and they were calling in for backup and reinforcements to come and show up so they could have greater numbers. And they didn't know, they were not expecting to see what they saw at that last meeting. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens at the next one. So anybody that can come out, we need you to come out. Joe, thanks a lot. Keep on doing it, man. And it's a beautiful view up there. Be careful in that elevator. So
oh yes. Go ahead.
The electrical system there a couple of years ago. So because of all the pigeon poop up in the walls and in the ceilings, no, this is true. The acidity from the pigeon poop ate through all the electrical wiring up there and the phone wiring and stuff. So the whole thing, because it had been sitting up there for so long. So the whole place is it's interesting. It's an interesting building.
It certainly is. It's one that in which our producer, engineer extraordinaire, TK Turbo, has actually been stuck in the elevator a couple of times because of power outages, which is why on some occasions when you get frustrated because we're knocked off the air, the dependency, again, on electricity, a solid internet connection often gets fried, and then we are taken off the air. So then TK has to jump into his personal computer and tie our broadcast into the radio tower before we're back up and running in the studio. Very complicated situation. Everyone says, man, what have you? I say, well, it's not cheap, and it often comes with a boat of frustration. So there's no question. We've been stable for a while now, but that elevator, you're taking your life in your hands every time you go down. And I don't mind taking the stairs down, but going up 9 floors, no thanks. Day to day. Maybe I could, though, given the extra weight that we've packed on the belly over the last couple of weeks. Got into a great workout regimen with the baseball team because when you're with a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-olds, they're all looking good. They're lifting, they're running day to day, and you're working alongside of them. You don't mind it. And then Memorial Day happened, and I just completely went to waste again. And yesterday was the first time I exuded any sort of physical activity as far as a workout goes. And don't think we're going to get into that in today, tomorrow, Sunday, or even Monday. We'll pick it up back on Tuesday. But to build off the caller's comments, keep the pressure on. Never let up. Pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. Power is not only what you have, but what the enemy thinks you have. Oh, these are all things that are associated with what is known as Saul Alinsky's 12 Rules for Radicals, following the playbook to a T. It's not hard, folks. 910-299-7535. Nothing reminds me of oppression than storming a Board of Trustees meeting and moving forward with providing an opportunity for a very famous, powerful, wealthy woman by giving her a well-compensated job that she can't be fired from. Yeah, all of that in comparison, of course, to what we saw up in Chapel Hill earlier this week. Exactly like many of people who have come before her and who experienced true oppression. We're 23 minutes past the hour here on the Big Talker FM. Yael Ossowski is going to join us here in just a few minutes. I really enjoy Johnny Cash delivering Ragged Old Flag. So I'm going to play that again for you before we part ways today, along with a few other patriotic melodies as we celebrate our nation's Independence Day. You've got folks, of course, like Nicole Hannah-Jones, among others, who are in a rush to destroy our history. And as my friend Richard Battle writes this morning, we often overlook the brilliant men who crafted our Declaration of Independence in 1776 with logic and reason rather than emotion and anger. And then 11 years later, in 1787, all focus was on future generations with a brand new document, the United States Constitution. It's now the longest active governing document globally. And when the founding fathers wrote this, they recognized that they didn't give us a perfect government, but hoped the people would continue to, quote, form a more perfect union. The Constitution is not a breathing document that follows changes in human development, but is a solid foundation constraining the worst tendencies of man to enslave people through government. Even more so today, the relevancy of their thoughts and writings confirms the agelessness of human nature and the brilliance contained in the Constitution and Declaration of Independence.
And every
in school, we used to sing it something like this. Listen here. Oh, beautiful, far spacious skies, far amber waves of grain, far purple mountain majesties, over the fruited plain. But now wait a minute, I'm talking about America, sweet America. You know, God done shed his grace on thee. He crowned thy good. Yes, he did. Every brotherhood from sea to shining sea. You know, I wish I had somebody to help me sing this. America, I love you, America. You see, my God, he done shed his face on thee. You ought to love him for it, 'cause he crowned that good. He told me he would. Every brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. I thank you, Lord.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. The Humphreys Law Firm is located in Lumina Station, Wilmington, North Carolina, practices civil litigation, intellectual property, commercial, and residential real estate. Please give us a call at 910-332-0721 or visit us on our website, which is www.humphreysfirm.law. You can also listen to me every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
When the war between the states began, North Carolina answered the call for Southern independence. From the mountains to the ocean, North Carolinians volunteered to defend their state. They came from all walks of life. Some were farmers and craftsmen, others politicians and professional soldiers. The old North State would eventually send 125,000 of her sons into service, more than any other state in the Confederacy, and over 40,000 gave their lives for the cause. On August 11, 2001, the Confederate Veterans Memorial Forest on the Blue Ridge Parkway was rededicated. This beautiful 125-acre site is a living memorial to those men who fought for Southern independence and for their homes in North Carolina. This message has been brought to you by the North Carolina Division of the Sons of Confederate Veterans. To learn more, visit our website at www.ncscv.org.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. Florida officials are working on plans to demolish what's left of a partially collapsed oceanfront condominium building. The plans were revealed yesterday after concerns about the structure's instability prompted a 15-hour halt to the search for survivors. After rescue efforts resumed last night, officials said they had started planning for the likely demolition of the remaining structure. Donald Trump's company and its longtime finance chief were charged yesterday in what a prosecutor called a sweeping and audacious tax fraud scheme. The indictment says Trump Organization CFO Alan Weissenberg allegedly received more than $1.7 million in off-the-books compensation, including apartment rent, car payments, and school tuition. Both Weisselberg and lawyers for the Trump Organization pleaded not guilty. The North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission is taking part in a nationwide campaign starting today, running through July 4th. It's called Operation Dry Water. The mission of the nationally coordinated effort is to promote sobriety while boating and educate boaters about the dangers of boating while under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Lieutenant Forrest Orr of the Wildlife Commission said they ultimately want to reduce the number of alcohol and drug-related incidents and fatalities on the water. And lots of people are wondering, will Wilmington's new Riverfront Park be ready to open in time for the holiday? A ribbon cutting is planned for this afternoon, and on Sunday, the 4th of July, the new venue will host a number of free concerts. For more on the City of Wilmington's 4th of July activities and the grand opening celebration for North Riverfront Park, look for this story on our website, wwaytv3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day and a safe 4th of July.
Happy Friday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with this Storm Track 3 forecast. Well, today is going to be a bit on the unsettled side, so keep the rain gear with you. We're going to see scattered showers and some tropical downpours take shape late this afternoon into the evening hours, so do keep that in mind today. And as we head into the second half of the day, we are going to see temperatures get back into the low to middle 80s, a few degrees cooler than normal. Shower activity should wrap up late tonight, allowing for lower humidity to settle in just in time for the holiday weekend. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
As we hit the final half hour of our program on this Freedom Friday, once again want to showcase a conversation we had earlier in the program with Gretchen Smith, U.S. Air Force veteran and the founder of the organization known as codeofvets.com. She's based out of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Go to codeofvets.com to find out more about what they do and why they do it. She was our featured guest during our weekly Salute to Service segment that we've been conducting for the better part of over 4 years now. Just after 7:30 Fridays, we tell stories of service and highlight issues related to veterans and those actively serving our country. Now from a land far, far away, Yael Ossowski with the Consumer Choice Center. I apologize, Yael, for interrupting your work here this morning in getting the smoker all cleaned and pristine ahead of a big weekend. So, celebrating our nation's independence in Vienna, Austria, how does that all work out for you, Yael? Are you there, sir? Good morning. On mute. He's probably hosing it down right now as we speak.
I sure am, Joe, and I'll tell you, I was. I would say the thing that really makes me the most popular guy is whipping out the smoker around the July 4th. All my friends are calling me, all the neighbors peeking in. Great American Southern tradition. So people love peeking in and seeing what I'm smoking.
And with that being said, as someone who was born north of the border, became a U.S. citizen with your family stationed just outside of Charlotte, very involved, of course, in the NASCAR industry and business, and as a student of history, someone, of course, who currently resides in Europe full-time. Given that we have highlighted multiple occasions this week, the infatuation some of our news networks have with communist China, based on what they published earlier this week. I mean, you don't have to take it from me; just look for yourself. When you look at our nation's Independence Day and how unique, what the founders crafted as far as some of our founding documents, and as someone who kind of has experienced it all, like yourself. Give us your thoughts on the nation's independence and how, in fact, it remains a very unique way of life in the world that we live in with billions and billions of people.
Yeah, I guess just to give two quick examples, and Joe, it's been a great Freedom Friday, a great program, so great listening all day. If you look at, let's say, the examples of Austria, this was a place that was a long time a hereditary kingdom, that you had an emperor, you had an empress. their children would rule the people. The people's rights would actually never really improve. There were tiny improvements over time, and that's just how things were. And it really didn't even change until the end of the First World War, when all of that was demolished. And then let's look at Canada north of the border. So they decided not to go to war with England and actually were granted their own sort of dominion, they call it, from the United Kingdom. And it was a kind of a gentleman's agreement. And in the United States, it was very different. It was idealists and people who had actually taken all the revolutionary ideas that came from the United Kingdom originally. You know, Thomas Paine was a pamphleteer from the United Kingdom and wrote the book Common Sense about why people should have autonomy and independence, particularly in these regions away from the main island of the United Kingdom. And some very talented, bright, smart people got together and actually dreamed up what would be our great American project. And I think it's so unique in history to know that you have a people who, you know, using not the force of, you know, international communism, not using, you know, international force, actually thinking about how can we intellectually put together a country and a republic? How can we learn from the ancient Greek democratic states? How can we learn from Rome? How can we craft this new country that will be a representative democracy, that will not practice monarchy? And I think that's what they were able to do. And I know it's fashionable today to say it was all in vain and, you know, draft with errors, and there's so many things that we need to be ashamed of. There really isn't, because no matter the problems that happened then, these problems were universal. There was slavery in all of the countries of the world. This was not a unique American problem. It was a problem of history. And to see that the United States has provided for great foundational documents that continue to shape many political projects across the globe should make us very proud. It's definitely something that I think about. You know, I might be here living temporarily under a different flag, but, you know, being the American mindset and having that mindset, it just goes against so many other cleavages of history, so many other flags. And the fact that we are a place where individuals matter, it's not a group that matters, it's individuals. I think that is something that sets the American project apart from everything else. And definitely looking at the Bill of Rights and the amendments, freedom of speech does not exist in the same capacity in many other countries of the world. And that's really one great reason to celebrate July 4th, independence, and really the continuing on, you know, over 200 years of this great project that still continues to give us tons of success today.
The states and its people, of course, granting the responsibility of the federal government to oversee, you know, our way of life. It has transformed into, you know, a very centralized state. As I caught your piece yesterday, you know, analyzing America, what, as you said, founded Canada, for instance, and how even with its faults and the situation going on north of the border, how a decentralized sort of approach up in Canada should be one that we continue to try and strive for here, yet the political forces at hand, particularly in Washington, D.C., you know, want to take us away from this idea of decentralization. In your mind, why is that? I have a few ideas why, but through your thoughts, you know, why is there forces in our country that are pushing us towards more centralization, more group thought, rather than this idea of individualism, sort of personal responsibility, and the ability for states to decide what's best for itself, so we can take good ideas and exercise them in other places where it's worked and throw the bad ideas in the garbage?
Yeah, I think the notion of decentralization is something that is very keen to the American project. It's why we have these states. I think if we look at a modern example, there is something with the National Guards. You can see that South Dakota is sending their National Guard down to the border, and there's a lot of discussions about them privately funding it and all. And it, this difference between the states was something that was very, very important to the American founding. We had different rules in different states for a reason. And over time, that has all been kind of usurped by this central federal government. A lot of it has to do with just power and might and money. I would say money is probably the most important thing. I think any of you listening have heard, your local politicians talk about this amazing federal grant that was just passed. I mean, these federal grants are really what has changed the power balance between states and the federal government. And I think it's gone awry from that. But where I do see hope is through the judicial system, through our courts. We can see that there is a return to what we would call states' rights. And we see that not just coming from the right, but actually from the left as well. If you imagine the states that have legalized cannabis, states that take a different approach, on various issues, taxation and the like, and then look at guns, for instance, and what Texas is doing, there is still a vibrant movement, I believe, for federalism, for states coming up with their own rights and where they don't see the federal government having a role. I would love to see that, be accelerated and exacerbated. We'll see what happens. I think there's a lot of centralist tendencies, and a lot of it has to do with just being effective. And people have a different idea of what government should be. Is government there to be the most effective arbiter and administrator of anything that we want it to do? Or is it there simply to respect and protect our rights? And I think those are the two differing worldviews that really shape a lot of this. And I think for most people, those who would like to have less government, those who would like to have less say on what they're allowed to do in their private lives, I think they definitely see the government as something that is there to respect their rights and to protect their rights when needed. And on the other hand, it's more about it being effective, it being a positive force in our life, providing us with something, granting us something. But as we know, there is nothing that the government gives you that they haven't taken from someone else.
Yael Ossowski with the Consumer Choice Center. Consumer Choice Radio airs on Saturdays at 10 o'clock here on the Big Talker FM, 10 a.m. ConsumerChoiceCenter.org, their website, the global grassroots movement for consumer choice. Yael, two of the big ideas that are being pushed, particularly by progressives in the country, are the ideas that we need to radically change for two reasons. Well, one, that we need to work to save planet Earth, of course, from its impending doom due to climate change. And the other is this idea, of course, that we need to look at our nation's history, feel guilty about it, and work to produce equal outcomes for particularly those who feel that they have been oppressed due to the pigment of their skin color over the course of their lifetime. These are the two narratives that are being pushed most loudly in our nation right now. Why do we feel that the emotion anger that is behind many of these conversations is one that doesn't necessarily best fit the nation as a whole moving forward in a positive way?
I think it's a good question, because I think if we only look to history and we go back and look and just see monsters and just see all the terrible things, that's only keeping one eye to it. It's judging history by today's standards instead of actually celebrating the things that are uniquely American and that have been done better than anywhere else. The fact that we've had slavery in the United States, true, but we've also had the civil rights movement. We've also had this increasing amount of minority entrepreneurship that really you don't have in many other parts of the world. And all of the wins that we've had collectively as a country are wins. Sometimes it's not always going to be the federal government that passes X and Y law. Most of the time, it's civil society groups. It's people who are standing up for their rights on their own. They might be viewed as wrong in the current time. In modernity, it's a dangerous time to be a truth teller. But overall, people can be vindicated. And I think the system that we have really gives people that kind of benefit of the doubt and does allow them to have a better arch on history and progress. If we really want progress, that's something that we have to embrace. We know that all things are flawed. I don't think many people, as far as I know, Joe, would want to go back to the 1700s. I know I wouldn't. I know I wouldn't want to go back to the 1800s. I think today we are the richest and the freest that we have ever been. There's no reason to want to go back there. We know if we were to do it all over again, what we'd do, but that's not the state that we're in. We're existing today. We're able to provide value today. I think that's the most important thing. And looking at continued innovation and celebrating our wins. We've talked about how different media, let's say projects, whether it be television or movies or books, always paint, the entrepreneurs, the business people as the terrible bad people, the bad guys. When in reality, the people who are owning small businesses and running them are providing value, they're providing goods and services, and they're the ones that are actually helping us achieve all of our broader goals. There has to be a lot of revision there, and hopefully there is better teaching, there's more discussion of that, and I think that would provide a better path forward.
I think people right now, particularly I know it, fans of this sort of program, feel that this idea and some of your viewpoints are not being taught or dominating at least parts of the conversation in our places of learning. For instance, we talk in our elementary, middle schools that to me the priority should be on the fundamentals and the foundations of reading, writing, learning to think through things critically. Our focus instead is on other priorities, obviously, by what we see nationally in the debate that is being had through implementing certain theories and curricula in our local secondary schools, and that even these ideas that you're espousing here this morning, are not very commonplace in our places of higher learning, and I think that's a very big concern for a lot of Americans out there these days.
Yeah, there's a lot of groupthink that happens, particularly at universities and Ivy League and those who are in the ivory tower. That happens a lot. And there's definitely a lot of power that is there. There's a lot of power in culture, which generally is held in more progressive and leftist terms. But, you need to be able to swim through those waters to be able to conquer them. And I think that the ideas of limited government, of not having too much of an intervention in our private lives, of entrepreneurship, those are powerful messages that really transcend anything that you can be taught in universities. So I would hope that people are able to debate those ideas more, get them out there, because no matter what people are learning or what theories they're being taught, what's put in practice is actually the better part, and that is entrepreneurship. That's community. That's people getting together. This is the theories that might be discussed today. It's fairly easy to predict that many times they're going to be obsolete tomorrow. So I don't worry as much about that. I think there's definitely a lot of bad education. And that's why school choice and things are very important, but also people learning on their own. At least for my bringing up, there's a lot of great things I learned in school, but the number one thing I learned is just to be skeptical and to learn on my own and to remember that I'm an individual. And a lot of the learning that I've done, whether it be in economics or anything I've done in politics, lobbying, media, everything I've learned has been on my own. And I think if people are empowered, they don't have to think that everything they're going to learn will come from an institution or from 4 years of learning. Rather, it comes through life. It comes through interaction, from different people you meet, from different things you're able to test out. That's really where we're going to find all of that value and all of that knowledge. I would hope we continue with that. But again, I know there are a lot of people who are more in elite circles or on the coasts who see it differently. But that's why we have the entire nation of hardworking, middle-class people, I think, that stands against that.
Yael Ossowski with the Consumer Choice Center. You can hear Yael and his co-host David Clement tomorrow at 10 o'clock for their latest edition of the Consumer Choice Radio Show, a part of a great local block of programming that we have assembled for you over the months. That begins at 8 a.m., of course, with Wake Up Our Faith, the folks over at Uprint, Ben Hawkins with the Lend with Ben show, and then Consumer Choice Radio, 10 a.m. here on the Big Talker FM. Yael, thanks so much for the insight. Great perspective this morning. I think much needed moving into the celebration of our nation's birth. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Joe, and happy Independence Day to everybody.
All right, we're 10 minutes in front of the hour. Great to have Yael Ossowski with that insight this morning for us. So eloquently put by our good friends with the Consumer Choice Center. We'll wrap up the broadcast week, cruising in to a 4th of July weekend after this.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, where the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. To be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men
From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee,
across the plains of Texas, oh, from sea to shining sea.
from Detroit down to Houston, and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, oh, and I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt of this land. God bless the USA. God bless this country, and I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless, please bless the
I'm K.O. Davis from K.O.'s Coast to Coast Tree, and I want to be your tree man.
When your trees need cut, 2 letters to know. One is a K, the other is an O. K.O.
Tree man.
Proper trimming is the most important thing that you can do, so don't just hire anybody to do it. You need someone that knows what they're doing.
K.O.
Call the professionals at K.O.'s Coast to Coast Tree and visit KOTrees.com.
Folks, we all know ongoing road construction and traffic can weigh heavy on your vehicle. Since 2006, O'Leary's Automotive Repair has provided comprehensive repair services at affordable prices to get you back on the road in no time. Their ASE certified technicians will help you find a cost-effective repair and maintenance alternatives. O'Leary's has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
I am State Farm Agent Rob Renz, and I want to help you get to a better place. Visit us online at ilminsurance.com. That's ilminsurance.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, a decent respect requires that they declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. And whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to establish new government. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, do, and with the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved of all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved. In the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Rounding out today's program here on the Big Talker FM, I want to point your attention to an article at carolinajournal.com by our friend Ray Nothstein. John Hancock's giant middle finger against tyranny. John Hancock is known for his sizable signature etched on the Declaration of Independence. Along with his life, he had much to lose if the British crown got its way. He had flaws like all the American founders, but Hancock's courage remains a great example to those pushing back against today's laundry list of tyrannies. While extremely generous with charitable giving, Hancock despised taxes. They have no right, the crown, to put their hands in my pocket, he quipped. It wasn't just the concept of no taxation without representation that irked him, though. Hancock believed, too, that Congress and other elected officials could use taxes as a form of tyranny against the people. He used much of his wealth to help finance the American Revolution when it was in desperate need of supplies. As an importer-exporter, he may have been the richest man in the colonies. In fact, most of the money was made from the colony's close relationship to the British Crown. Yet, from the outset, Hancock wanted to play no part in their tyranny. First, the Declaration of Independence reminds us that rights are inherent. Government is the servant and not the master of people. Even a newborn child has more rights and importance than the government. They, too, are elevated above the whims and dictates of centralized power. Liberty is the birthright of Americans, a concept that sent shockwaves across Europe at the time. Thomas Jefferson gives the document a rat-a-tat cadence, reinforcing its authority and urgency. The Founding Fathers had seen, as the Declaration of Independence tells us, what a despotic government can do to its own people, declared Ronald Reagan. Hancock's daring of King George to come and get him, and they tried, as a reminder to defend our founding principles, our Bill of Rights, and the American ideals that remain a source of hope for the billions who live under the dark forces of tyranny. As Americans, we should always strive to live up to the ideals of the Declaration of Independence. It offers us the framework for equality and freedom, unlike anywhere else in the world. And most of all, don't ever be afraid to push back and channel a little John Hancock against the anti-American hysteria that has caused so many to lose their mind. That from Ray Nothstein this morning at carolinajournal.com. Hope you have a safe and celebratory 4th of July weekend. We're going to take Monday off. We'll be back Tuesday. Happy 4th of July. Spend a little time with your kids, your grandkids, to talk about the uniqueness of the greatest nation the world has ever known.
In honor of the servicemen and women stationed around the globe, Dr. Tynan will now sing God Bless America.
While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair, as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
I walked through a county courthouse square. On a park bench, an old man was sitting there. I said, "Your old courthouse is kind of run down." He said, "No, it'll do for our little town." I said, "Your old flagpole is leaned a little bit, and that's a ragged old flag you got hanging on it." He said, "Have a seat," and I sat down. "Is this the first time you've been to our little town?" I said, "I think it is." He said, "I don't like to brag, but we're kind of proud of that ragged old flag. You see, we got a little hole in that flag there when Washington took it across the Delaware. And it got powder burned the night that Francis Scott Key sat watching it write and say, 'Can you see?' And it got a bad rip in New Orleans with Pakenham and Jackson tugging at its seams. And it almost fell at the Alamo beside the Texas flag, but she waved on, though. She got cut with a sword at Chancellorsville, and she got cut again at Shiloh Hill. There was Robert E. Lee, Beauregard, and Bragg, and the south wind blew hard on that ragged old flag. On Flanders Field in World War I, she got a big hole from a Bertha gun. She turned blood red in World War II. She hung limp and low a time or two. She was in Korea, Vietnam. She went where she was sent by her Uncle Sam. She waved from our ships upon the briny foam, and now they've about quit waving back here at home. In her own good land here, she's been abused. She's been burned, dishonored, denied, and refused. And the government for which she stands is scandalized throughout the land. And she's getting threadbare and she's wearing thin, but she's in good shape for the shape she's in. 'Cause she's been through the fire before, and I believe she can take a whole lot more. So we raise her up every morning, we take her down every night, we don't let her touch the ground, and we fold her up right. On second thought, I do like to brag, 'cause I'm mighty proud of that ragged old flag.
Keeping Holden Beach informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.